All right, so we are live, and I am super excited for this, Kayla, because we've been working for some time together and we got some awesome stories to
Mhm.
share, some awesome insight, some insightful management stuff that I feel like a lot of people can benefit from. So I appreciate you for being willing to jump on this little interview, and we're going to make a case study out of this, so people who are seeing this are definitely going to get a lot from your story. So
Mhm.
to begin, talk to me how you were diagnosed with type 1. Take us to the very first beginning of your diagnosis. How did it all go down? And then we'll start from there.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Kayla. I'm 32 years old now. So I live in the suburbs of Indianapolis with my fiance and a 3-year-old son. I'm very much like a stereotypical suburban working mom.
Mhm.
Um, I have been diabetic for 23 years. So I was diagnosed when I was 9. So it's probably late enough that I have some memories of being not diabetic, but probably not too many. Most of my memories, I would say, are post-diagnosis. So most of my childhood was, yeah, after the diabetes diagnosis. Um, I would say, immediately after diagnosis, my parents were like pretty involved, right? As you would have to be with a child that's diagnosed. Your parents have to be really involved with the dosing, the carb counting, all of the things. But I would say at a certain point in my maybe early teenage years, right or wrong, I would say my parents kind of backed off a little bit. And just maybe they got complacent or comfortable, whatever. I can't blame them, but they kind of took a more hands-off approach to the diabetes. So I would say at an early age, felt very much that this was just like a me thing. You know what I mean? Like this was just for me. Like I felt sort of isolated with it. Like this was my thing to take care of. I have to do it by myself. And as you can imagine, if you're about 12 or 13, taking care of your own diabetes management, things started to fall off, right? So it was also pre-CGM. So I was very analog, right? So I was doing the finger prick testing. I was still on injections at that point. So I had not yet transitioned to a pump. Um, and I would say I stopped carb counting. I wasn't testing as much. I kind of got myself into a system that was working well enough, right? I would say my A1Cs through my teenage years, and maybe super early 20s were always like high sevens, low eights. So not amazing, but not anything that anyone's going to be like, this is really concerning, right? I wasn't in like the 12s. I was getting by, I would say,
Yeah.
doing things the way I was doing them, which was just dosing when I ate, right? It was very intuitive. It was like, I'm not carb counting, I'm not checking as often as I should be. I'm just doing what I need to do to get by. Um, I would say in my late 20s, probably till now, until we started working together, I had kind of refined my system a little bit, right? I grew out of my teenage years and I probably took better care of myself than I had been. So I had since started on a pump and have a CGM, which obviously improves your management just in and of itself. So I'd say my A1Cs for the last probably 7 years or so had moved down a step, probably to like mid to low sevens, maybe high sixes. So I had improved a little bit, but I was still kind of operating on my baseline self-developed system of just no carb counting. I'm thinking about it all the time, but my management isn't great. I would say none of my endocrinologists through all this time were really supportive of my system. I'd rotated through a number of endocrinologists. I had either lied to them about saying that I carb counted and didn't, or I would tell them that I didn't carb count and how I did my management, and I would get a lot of feedback about that that didn't go super well. So I would say overall, I've just kind of felt very isolated with my management and the disease as a just as like a single person with it. I mean, I know there are other diabetics out there and I have known that, but I would say I've just been living in my own little bubble, just trying to get by with it for
Yeah.
about 23 years
Yeah.
until we
Wow.
started working together.
Wow. So it's very interesting because, I was diagnosed at a later age. I didn't have to go through that teenage years, and as a
Mm,
kid, I feel like it brings its own set of challenges, and then also with your parents being on top of it, and how they're
yeah.
approaching it as well. And it's very interesting to see different people take throughout their journey. Now, talk to me a little bit before we started working together. Like, what was some of the struggles that you were facing with type 1 when it comes to the management, maybe some of the actual practical stuff, and also some of the mental side of things?
Yeah, I would say my last few years have been a really just interesting, sort of transformative time in my life. It just in a lot of areas. I think that probably led me to working with you. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a 3-year-old son. So when I got pregnant with him, I would say my whole life, right, obviously kind of got turned upside down. Um, and trying to manage diabetes when you're pregnant is really difficult, but there's a lot of extra added pressure on that, right? Because now I'm not just caring for myself. The way that I manage my diabetes is now influencing another life, which
Yeah.
felt very heavy to me. And I was really fortunate to be able to kind of, I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you, but I was able to get my A1C down into the fives during my pregnancy. Um, I think just the mental pressure that I was feeling about that, like potentially impacting my son's life. I think just like, I think I put all of my energy into it, and I was like, I don't care if I just have to sit on the couch all day and put all of my focus onto it. Like I'm going to do it for my son, and I was able to do it, which was great. I
Yeah.
feel really fortunate to have had that happen. Um, and then I had my son, and then after that, I would say I was not able to maintain an A1C in the fives. I wouldn't say that I like totally lost control. I would say I went back to my baseline of like high sixes, low sevens.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that moment of like after having my son, and just you're in a totally different world. Like
Yeah.
once you have a kid, your life is just completely different. And I definitely felt like I was rebuilding myself, sort of like on all levels, right? So I had just had a pregnancy, so my body was totally different. I had lost all of my strength.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to like work through the hormone changes and what that was doing to my diabetes was really difficult. I felt like I didn't have as much control as I had pre-pregnancy. I'm also still working through all of this, right? So my career is going through a bunch of different changes. I'm switching jobs, um, different roles in my company. Trying to manage all of that, I felt like I had the opportunity to kind of just make a different person out of myself. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, for
kind of in
real.
all of those facets was just like, okay, I was fine before. I had a system, everything was working, but like I have this opportunity to sort of come back stronger than I was. And so I started taking that really seriously with like my physical health starting. So I started exercising, I would say, for the first time consistently, really in my adult life. Um, to sort of rebuild my strength that I had lost during the pregnancy. And then, I've been able to continue that for several years, which has been fantastic. And I'm really proud of myself for being able to do that. So I got through that. I kind of stabilized my career, I figuring out parenthood. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I think I need to pay attention to the diabetes. Like I was hitting a wall, right? It was becoming the limiting factor of like, I can't make any more progress because I'm coming up against this wall of blood sugar management. It's like, I want to lose a little weight. My relationship with food is kind of messed up right now. Um, every time I try to make an improvement, I'm either encountering highs or lows, or like I'm on a roller coaster. And I just got to a point where I was like, I think this might be the foundation. Like I hadn't yet put diabetes at the center. Like it had always been like a peripheral lever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was a thing I had to manage, but it was never the center of it. And I got to a point where I was like, I think this might be the center of it. Like, I think, like, I think if I were to focus on the diabetes, like, I think the rest of it might fall into place easier.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting it, I can just focus on it and see if that helps. Spoiler alert, that totally was the case. Like, it totally worked out that way, which was great. But I think that's what led me to working with a coach and working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
So,
really great.
yeah, yeah. So I don't even think I remember exactly. How'd you find me? Like, how'd you come across my work? Like, I don't even think I asked you this before. And I know we DM'd a little bit, then we got on a
Yeah.
call, we talked, but do you remember how you came across my
I
page?
do. I do. It was such like this is going to sound dramatic, but it was such like a life-changing moment for me. Because like I said earlier, I've been just existing in this bubble by myself.
Yeah.
Like I know theoretically there's a bunch of other diabetics. I occasionally meet one in the wild, like I'll see somebody else
Yeah.
with a pump or doing an injection. I'm like, oh, there's another person. But like for the most part, I'm just like, it's a me thing. I don't even talk about it to my fiance very much. Like it's just me alone doing this thing. And I think, doom scrolling one night on my phone on Instagram. And it was like divine intervention. It was like the algorithm knew what I needed. And I was just scrolling. And then I came across one of your reels. And I don't even remember which one it was, but it was just like my brain saw it. And I was like, whoa, there is obviously a diabetic community on social media. Like it had not even occurred to me
Yeah, yeah,
to go looking for that. And I feel so silly saying that because I'm on social media. Like I exist in the modern world like everybody else, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
I just don't know why I didn't think about finding that or looking for it or thinking like that's a place where I could find community. But I came across your reel and then I was just like, it was like a light switch moment. It was just like, wow. So I started following you and then the algorithm learns that I'm interested, right? So I start seeing other people and I'm now since follow many other creators and people that are diabetic, which has been amazing for me. But that's how it started as I saw your
Wow.
reel and then I started following you and I was like, wow, I instantly felt so much more supported and seen, I think,
Yeah.
by just having that on my algorithm or on my feed of just other people that are diabetic. And it was just like instantly was really helpful to me.
Wow, that's powerful. So, quick side note here. When I first was diagnosed with type 1, I believe the hardest part was just being alone. I'm such a like
Yeah.
extrovert that I need to talk and I need to like, like express
Mm.
myself, but I felt like I just couldn't talk to anybody that actually understood. So, I came across the community after I just started using the type 1 diabetes hashtag. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to talk about
Oh,
my
yeah.
journey and just put like hashtag type 1. And then people just started randomly following me and they're like, oh, hey,
Mm.
I'm a type 1 from this part of the world and this part of the country. And then they were also being very thankful of what I was actually doing. So to me, that was like my cue of like, okay, this is my passion, like this is my purpose. And
Yeah.
I remember writing content. I would sit there and like this sucks and like I feel so like alone and but it's okay, guys, we're gonna get through this, right?
Yeah.
And then it would really have an impact on people and it's kind of taken me back. It's been a while since
Mm.
this whole journey for me started. But I'm glad that the algorithm, God bless the algorithm that
Yeah.
it found us. Now, interesting question. So I have for you. Was there any pushback on yourself internally? Like I want to get someone's help, but I don't know. I don't know if this is the right thing. Was there any like kind of resistance to getting help from a coach?
Yeah, I would say I was a little bit nervous, just because it's something I had not, like, I'd never done that before. Like, I've never hired like a personal trainer or a nutritionist or like even like a diabetes coach, obviously. Like, I'm not really somebody that asks for a lot of help. I think a lot of people are probably like that too. So it was difficult, I think, to like reach out and be willing to take that step. But I also think like, I was just one really excited to have found that community and I was like maybe this is a way that I could be a part of it and so that was I think a motivator for me to be like let me put myself into the community and see if this
Yeah,
is something that could work for me but also I feel like I said I just hit a wall where it's like I've been doing this for 23 years. I think I've reached my like I've hit my ceiling on my management the way that I'm doing it.
yeah,
And like I said, like high sixes, low sevens aren't the worst place to sit, but I just knew that I could do better than that. And I was in, like, I'm in a phase where I'm trying to better myself. And I was like, maybe I just need to ask for help. Like maybe there's a different approach, or a different way, right? It's the acceptance that like maybe somebody else knows something that I don't know.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I can be vulnerable and humble enough to admit that and like listen to someone else and try to take a different approach. And I think I mean, it's been more than worth it for me. It's been incredible.
That's
Mhm.
that's such a powerful thing, and I feel like that's something with type 1 diabetics. We just got so used to it just being alone. We go to a doctor
Yeah.
and it's like you say something and you know that they're not giving you useful information, so you kind of start getting a
Mhm.
little bit more reserved, and then it's
Mhm.
like people don't
Mhm.
understand me. So even for as a type 1 diabetic, it can feel almost intrusive when somebody, is looking over your blood sugar levels and talking to you about
Mhm.
something that's very personable. And because it tends to bring there's some attachment to your self-worth with your numbers. A lot of
Absolutely.
times, like type 1 diabetics may say, like, oh, I'm doing horrible. I must be broken or I must be a bad person. But that's
Mhm.
that's that's really not the case. And I'm grateful that you said, you know what, I'm willing, I'm gonna risk it. I think that is how we get better at everything. We have to be willing to take a little bit of risk and share what's going on with others. And like
Mhm.
you said, you were open enough to say, all right, let me try out what this random guy from the internet
Yeah.
is saying. So it's very interesting the power of social media, how many type ones I've been able to connect through that. So let's talk a little bit about the experience you had with the program. What was it like going through the program? What did you learn from it? What did you feel like you got a lot from? And then we'll go more into specifics.
Yeah, I would say that your program and your coaching style really resonated with me. I think it was a good match. It worked well with my personality. Your system is additive, which I think worked nicely, which is the foundation of your system is tracking, right? So I've downloaded an app. I track my blood sugars throughout the day. I track my dosages, things like that, which that's kind of like the foundation of it, which in and of itself, I would say just shines a light on your management and causes an improvement without even adding anything else to it. Like there's no other strategy other than just writing down what you're doing, which even just the first week of doing that, it just makes you pay more attention to it. And I would say I saw an improvement just by doing that, which was great. And then from there, your system, like I said, builds on itself, right? So you start with working on your mindset and how do you think about yourself and think about the disease and think about your management and how you talk to yourself about it. And then from there, you move into probably what people would think of as like the meat of any kind of coaching system, which is like optimizing your pump settings, the way that you dose, thinking about actually, how you take the insulin for what you eat. Like that's kind of the tactical, technical piece of it. So moving into that. And then the other two sort of additive layers are the nutrition and the exercise, which are just additional levers that you can use to help manage blood sugar. And the way that that system works, I think, is really nice because you can sort of flow through the layers up and down as you move through the coaching, which I think was really nice for me because you start with mindset and then you move into settings. But then if you have a week where you're not feeling very good about it, you can go back down, which is something that I really needed because I always, I mean, as you know, struggled with mindset throughout the process. So it was like we'd make it all the way up to nutrition, but then we'd have to like revisit and come back. And the way that it builds on itself worked really well for me, I think. Um, yeah.
Yeah. What was surprising to you most about the process?
I think, well, what was surprising to me was how much progress I could make in such a short amount of time with with the same amount or less effort, I think,
I
is
love
what
that.
really surprised me. Um, because what one of the other things that worried me about starting coaching like this was before I had started working with you, like I've told you before, I was already thinking about diabetes all day long. You know what I mean? Like my averages were running in the 170s. My time in range wasn't awesome, but I sure was thinking about it all day. You know what I mean? Like I was managing lows, I was frustrated by highs. I was like it was always running in the background of my mind. And so when I think about like I want to do better or I want to work with a coach, it's scary to think about that because the mind naturally thinks, well, if I want to be better, it's going to take more from me. Like it's going to take more energy to be better, and I don't know if I have more energy. Like I'm so busy already, like I can't spend more energy on it. And I think that was what was really surprising for me is just by maybe approaching it a different way or like looking at it through a different lens or from a different perspective with different tools, I was able to get better results with the same amount of energy. That's so
Yeah.
surprising to me. Like the way that I'm sitting now, my averages are in the 120s. I'm still thinking about it pretty much all the time, but it's actually less stressful than it was. Like it's not as hard. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's so surprising to me.
That's such a powerful thing you just mentioned, and I think that this is where a lot of issues happen with other type 1 diabetics is that they think good control means more sacrifice, more
Hmm.
struggle. And it's not necessarily the case. I think it's doing it more strategically. And what
Hmm.
I've realized is we are set up to fail right from the start. Like the information that they give us, the one size fits all formulas, and it's almost as like we're playing a game that we just can't win, and then it's we continue doing it expecting different results.
Hmm.
But it's thinking about it, like you said, in just a different way. You're gonna think about it the same amount, but now it's just being more
Hmm.
strategical about that. And I love that you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of people do get caught up and they say, well, if I get lower A1Cs, that means that my life is just gonna suck. I'm not gonna be able to do this, and I'm not gonna be able to do that. But it's quite the opposite. You're gonna be able to do the things that you want to do, but just in more control. So let's talk about some
It's a funny
actual.
comparison because I had that excellent control when I was pregnant, but because I was still operating under my own self-developed sort of system, it did take more effort. Like it really did. Like it was extraordinarily difficult for me to have that level of control at that point in my life because I was still using, I mean, it's not a bad system. It just wasn't optimized for my life.
Yeah.
So I guess it's an interesting experience for me to have done that while pregnant and then to do that now and have better control. But like the level of energy I exerted at these two times is so drastically different. So I think it's really nice for me to like have that experience and see those different
Yeah.
results.
For sure. And like I said, that optimizing is the word there. It's like find
Hmm.
what works for your lifestyle and adapt it to your lifestyle so it doesn't have to. For example, what I do, we talked about this multiple times. What I do might not be the best for you, right? What you do might not
Hmm.
be the best for me, but it's the specific lifestyle that you want to live and that you can. I think that's the key thing is be able to maintain it long term. And if you set it up around your lifestyle, I think it makes a huge difference. So talk to me about the specific results. I know we have some graphics that I'm probably just gonna pop on the screen
Yeah.
later on, but talk to me about some A1C, some averages, some time in
Mm.
range before, and then what it's looking now. Pull this up.
Yeah, when I sent you my report when we first started working together, I pulled my 90-day report, which shows my average and time in range. And I think I was sitting close to a 170 average. I think my time in range was maybe in the 60s. I can't remember exactly, but it's probably about where I was sitting. And then we've been working together for maybe 3 or 4 months now. And my most recent 90-day report that I pulled has my average in the 120s and time in range is now in the 80s. I'm probably consistently at about an 85%, which has been just incredible.
Yeah.
I had an A1C pulled in September, I think, October, maybe a month ago. And I was at 6.1, which is as low as I've seen it in a few years, probably since my pregnancy. I think my last couple had been maybe 6.8 or in the low sevens. And I was really surprised at how quickly I could make that much progress. My next A1C gets pulled in December, and I'm really hoping it's down in the fives. I think it probably will be. So
Yeah,
I'm
for
I'm really
sure.
excited because it feels like I've reached a really sustainable place where at this point, week after week, my averages are staying pretty consistent. Obviously, there are ups and downs. It's never going to be perfect, but I've reached a pretty consistent place where I feel like if I can just maintain this, then my A1C will kind of level out in the fives, which I'm hopeful for.
Yeah, so definitely. Like to me, it was such an amazing thing to see. It's like your averages were in the higher realms, around like 170. Um, but then now it's just a consistent thing, and it's almost has been a journey. Usually the journey looks very good results fast, and then it tends to like go up a little bit and then
Mm.
goes it's not linear that it goes straight down. It's always like this. But
Yep.
now I feel like you reached a really good place where um, I'm confident that your A1Cs are most likely going to be in the fives. I can't wait to see that in December. But they're
Hmm.
definitely shifted even from a month ago.
Yeah.
Being 80 plus percent time in range now, around the 85s, and also, from the 60s, right, 170s to now in the 120s. It's just an amazing thing to actually see that happen. Now, how, besides results that you've gotten with actual blood sugar levels, have you noticed something around your day by day, your energy, your routine, anything that you feel like could also add to the results, not just metric wise?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier that I've been working on a lot of different aspects of my lifestyle and trying to improve all of that. And by putting the diabetes management at the center, it kind of helped open up more doors for the rest of those things that I was trying to work on. And I think that's really been the case. And I've seen more transformation in other areas of my life too. So, like I mentioned briefly, I think my relationship with food is something I was really struggling with. So, I tend to be an emotional eater, which is just like it's comical to me to think about like being a diabetic and being an emotional eater. That is like not a good combo. It's not a good combo. And
Yep,
it's
tell
something
me
that I,
about it. I'm in the same I'm in the same boat.
oh my gosh. And it's just something I've struggled with for so long. It's like I get stressed out and then I'm a nighttime eater. It's like it's either right before I go to bed or even I'll wake up at night and it's like I start snacking. And then my blood sugar management goes out of control with that too. And it's I was just putting so much pressure on myself because I was feeling guilty about the blood sugar results of that emotional eating. I was feeling guilty for doing it in the first place and just oh, my relationship with food was just a mess. And it was impacting my progress in the gym. It's not helping me lose the baby weight that I want to lose. Like it's all compounding on each other. And I would say by putting that diabetes focus first, and I think that's also the benefit of that mindset piece being kind of the foundation of your program is that it helped me take off some of that pressure, which was, something that I really appreciated that you did, which was like, don't worry about it so much. Like, if that's a habit that you have, let's work around it. And I think that's the first time I had ever really thought about it from that perspective, which is like, stop shaming yourself for doing it. Like, just figure out how to work with it. And by doing that, it's so ironic because by doing that, it then lessened the pattern. Like, I now don't have that problem as much as I did. Do I still have that problem sometimes? Yeah, I do. Like, it's a long road to get rid of that habit. It's going to be something I struggle with for a long time, probably, but I feel so much better about it now and I do it less just by taking the pressure off and by sort of shifting my focus to be like, let's work with it instead of work against it. Um, and so just by doing that, I think it's just caused a ripple effect in the rest of my life, which is like I'm now better at managing the rest of my sort of systems, right? My other health systems, my exercise, my eating. It's all kind of just worked together much more nicely than it did previously.
Yeah, I think something that's very powerful and that I've learned over the years of coaching is the mindset of everything. It literally determines the action the individual is going to take, and you are a very unique person, and your personality is like you're like a perfectionist at heart. It's like
Mhm.
you got to do it right, you got to do it perfect,
Yeah.
and sometimes that can turn around and bite you, and it could be really on the long term part of it. It could be very detrimental because you start to burn out. When things aren't going
Yeah.
right, or externally, there's a lot of other factors. And I remember hearing you talk about it, and I picked up on some. I'm like, well, I remember it was like we gotta take a step back. It's like you're. I see it. Like I see it with my own eyes that you're trying your very best, and as long as you're trying your very best, I mean, that's all we can really um, we can really hold on to because there's so much other different factors. And it's when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we have to get the result, we have to get the right
Mhm.
numbers. I feel like this just becomes more of something that becomes very heavy, and we're walking around with
Yeah.
it so heavy.
Yeah.
And a lot of I, I believe that that's something very valuable, that working with someone that understands type 1 diabetes instead of just
Mhm.
telling someone what to do makes the huge difference. You know, the accountability from someone that knows what it's like to have bad days, right? To know what it's
Yeah.
like to, you know, have difficult seasons or difficult weeks, you know, and it's
Mhm.
just part of the normal. Now, it doesn't matter to me, you know, how many times someone gets off track. It's how fast they can get back on track.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's what makes the difference in, you know, working more intimate with someone. And also, like, I gotta say, we build an amazing relationship. It's like you became a
Mhm.
friend to me, you know. It's like
Yeah.
we're going through this together. Like I'm in the trenches, you're in the trenches, right?
Mhm.
And we're helping each other out in one way or another. And that's the power, I believe, of not doing this alone, you know.
Yeah.
And most importantly, like I said, in that mindset, it's having that very clean mindset, healthy mindset,
Yeah.
positive mindset that makes the difference in all this. So, the last question I have
Mm.
is, what would you say to someone if they're on the fence of getting help or reaching out, or they don't know whether, oh, I don't know, I might feel a little bit uncomfortable about this. What would you tell that person?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, just do it, right? Obviously do it. Yeah, I can acknowledge that it's scary because I felt the same. And especially if you're somebody that's not really participated in the community yet or found the community, or maybe this is your first sort of look at it. Um, yeah, it can feel really scary because it you feel vulnerable to like put yourself out there, especially if you've been managing it by yourself for so long that I can guarantee that a lot of the things that you're thinking or struggling with so are the rest of us. And I think that's been a big learning for me, which is just, yeah, the issues that I was having, problems I was having, sort of my day-to-day struggles, certain foods, certain, variables that impact your blood sugar. Like the rest of us have it too. And I think by putting yourself into the community and sort of accepting help from others, it just feels very welcoming and very supportive. I think it's only brought positivity into my life. I feel less alone now than I did, and I feel like I have more resources than I ever have. Um, and it just makes me feel empowered too, which is like the choices that I make and how I choose to manage my diabetes. Now I don't feel ashamed about, I think. I think I used to feel some shame about the way that I managed things by not carb counting and maybe doing some things a little non-traditionally. I used to feel ashamed about it because that's how the medical community would make me feel. Like a lot of my doctors would constantly chastise me for not carb counting or not using certain pump settings or whatever it was that I didn't want to do. And so that's the only feedback that I was getting. And so I felt really bad about myself um, until I think I sort of stepped foot into the community and coaching with you, which is like, hey, there's a lot of us out here that do it that way. And that's an okay way to do it. And look, it works because look at the results. Like you can't argue with the results, right?
Exactly.
Like I'm sitting here with an A1C of 6.1 and I'm not carb counting and I'm doing things non-traditionally and I'm kind of just, I don't want to say making up the rules as I go, but like I'm not doing what my doctor's telling me to do and it's working. And I think there's empowerment in that and like maybe proof in numbers, right? So like the more of us that do it, the more that we can show people that it works and then you feel less shame about it if you do it that way too. And it just feels like you're part of a community and part of something bigger than yourself, which I think is just so important for a disease like this, where it's just all consuming, right? Like we're all thinking about it so much, and it's like the number one thing in your day, and nobody else around you is probably dealing with it. And it's really important, I think, to surround yourself with people that get it. And it's just opened up a lot of doors for me personally. And yeah, I would highly encourage you if you're thinking about it, that it's well worth it.
Awesome. I love that. And to kind of wrap this whole thing off, um, it's been a real amazing insight of getting to watch you go through this journey as a mother going through motherhood, also
Mhm.
as you getting a promotion mid in the middle of our program,
Oh
right?
my
It's
gosh.
it's like all these other things that are happening externally. And I know I've told you this before, but I think it's very powerful that you are not letting type 1 stop you from doing and becoming a better person, becoming a better you. And I've got to witness that, with numbers and specifically,
Mhm.
from going your average is dropping, your time in range increasing, your A1C dropping. It's really awesome
Mhm.
to see that, but also seeing you grow as a person, and I think one of the most amazing things is that this little case study that we just did and this your results are not going to just affect you now. It's going to
Mhm.
affect literally so many other people in this community. And I think that this is what it's all about. It's kind of like a snowball effect. And I feel like it started with me getting results, but then some people maybe they can't relate to me, right? Maybe they can't relate to they think I'm, oh no, you're too extreme. You do but in this case, there's a lot of other people that are getting results and have a different lifestyle than me. Are
Yeah.
busy moms with very professional lives that are very demanding. So it's very you're not doing this just for yourself. You're doing this for
Mhm.
for everybody else. And your results, like I said, Kayla, they're gonna help so many other people in this community. And it's awesome to get to see that. It's awesome that we get to do things not just for ourselves, but for the greater good of this whole thing. And I think that helps be able to maintain this longer. It's like, okay, this is not just a me thing, this is all of us
Right.
here, and we can all pick up from each other's strengths. So, with that being said, Kayla, I appreciate you so much for taking this time to share your little transformation and story and taking us from the beginning to where you are now. I'm certain that your next A1C is going to be lower than a 6.1
Mhm.
because averages show that they're
Yeah.
going to be in the fives, and I can't wait to even put that like update. Kayla's A1C came back, and we'll continue on getting results. So with all that being said, yeah, it's been awesome.